All right,
And
Tiffany, I just dropped that in there.
thank
And
you.
we're good to go. Love that when Pierre just dropped in a board. So, folks, good morning. First off, thank you all very, very much. For everybody on this call, please be aware you are going to start to receive. Tiffany will tell us in just a second when we'll start to receive. You're going to receive invitations to these calls and any more information coming from a different number. It is a 407 number. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Tiffany can probably put it in there. What I want you to do is I definitely want you to save it. The first couple questions we're going to ask for questions like, how do you lead generate? What are the two areas you like to focus on in lead generation? Our goal with this new communication number, different than the one you normally get, is it allows us to also be able to capture the information. Like if you say, well, I'm database driven or I am open house driven, just using two, or prospecting driven, we then can actually, it applies a tag to you. So when we have something that's really relevant to database, we can send it to you directly and not have you receive stuff that isn't really relevant to you. It allows us to be much more communicative about what's important to you. And that's the entire purpose of everything, because this is, well, let's call it out. This market sucks. Okay, we need the interest rates to go down so we get more buyers and we'll get more sellers, because nobody wants to trade a 7% interest rate for a 4% or a 3% interest rate. And it's coming. I promise you it's coming. And whoever is standing at the end, all of you, because you're here, you're engaged, you're like, I'm going to do things. If you are not niching down, you're going to hear that from DJ all the time. If you're not focusing your energies on your business, this is a great opportunity for you to lift yourself up by the bootstraps and really get involved. Now, I'll give you a little personal story, just so you know I'm not preaching to the choir. Jackie and I are working our butts off, and truthfully, we have been order takers for the last couple of years. I'm just being completely transparent. We have a database that we've, 20 years in the business, so we have a lot of people in our database, and we're still doing what we should be doing, but we were never really doing it over the last 4 years at the highest level because people would fall at your laps. Has anybody experienced or heard about that? Just nod your head to the people I can see, where, a year ago, it's like you couldn't swing a cat without finding a buyer who wanted to buy a home. And there were enough properties are on the market. You're competing in multiple offers. It's changed a lot. Okay. I believe very strongly that relationships are the foundation to long-term business. And that does not mean that, and as a real estate professional, that it's just your database. There always has to be something else there that you're focusing on. So I will use, I'm going to use prospecting because that's a very hard thing to do. Very successful right now business, but I'm going to use prospecting and database. If you were to call for sale by owners, expireds, withdrawals, all the horrible things, circle prospecting that, and please don't misunderstand me. I'm not forcing you to do it. I'm not saying that's what you should choose, because it has to be sweet. It has to be your sweet spot. Say something. Now, these are right now businesses. That means when you're talking to somebody, you have an opportunity that day they're going to say, yes, okay, come over and take a look, and they can list your property. But in prospecting, for the people that I can see, just a show of hands on this one, if you were to call for 3 hours a day, and again, I have to caveat this, I'm not instructing you to do that unless that's what you want to do. But just think about this. If you were coaching somebody and they were to call 3 hours a day and they had a script and they kept monitoring what's working and what not working, and they called 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, who here by a show of hands thinks it would be very reasonable for them to sell at least 20 homes a year with 48 weeks of five days a week, 3 hours a day? They're going to be talking to, I'll give you some numbers here. 5 times 3 times 10 times 48. They're going to be talking to 7,200 people over the course of a year. 20 listings is probably reasonable. Now, here's the funny part. The truth is, and I know this because this is what I used to do, you're not going to be very good at it, and you're never going to do it 100% of the time. So let's say it was only 40 weeks of calls, truthfully, over the course of that time. You're still going to talk to enough people that you have a great probability that two things are going to happen. You're going to get really, really good at your scripts, because why would you just make it where they keep hanging up? All of a sudden, you're going to realize, oh, I've got a better way of communicating. Interesting. The disc profile will help with this. I have a better communication style. I'm niching down into my market, into what I'm going to do, and I'm going to become really, really good at this. This is our time for all of us to say, okay, what is my passion? What am I going to do? And get really, really good at this. You know, my minimum standard is I'm on the phone for an hour a day making outbound prospecting based phone calls. And I will tell you, as good as I used to be at it, I freaking suck at it now. Okay. I mean, horrible. I hang up the phone. I'm like, you are the worst person I have ever seen. You're just, I mean, you at some point, how can you possibly look yourself in the mirror? That's how bad it is. It's gotten better. Don't misunderstand me. But when it started out about a month ago, I'm like, this is a joke. I mean, it was just brutal. So don't think that you're unique when you're really critical of yourself and whatever you're doing. But where am I going to be 2 months from now? And I know that because I've actually done this journey once before. Whatever you decide to focus on, where are you going to be 2 months from now? Where you are right now may be great. And I love that it is. I love that you got a positive outlook on this. And it may be not exactly where you want to be, but it's a good starting point. And the thing is, you'll never be here again. And the hardest part, this is like going to the gym, is that first couple of weeks where you're sore, you're getting up way too fucking early, excuse my French, but that's the bottom line is, it's like, I can't believe I've got to commit to this. Your muscles hurt. You go to tie your shoe and you're like, I'm not that old. It's just, there's so many embarrassing things that happen when you start into something that's actually going to get better. And then after about 3 weeks, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm starting to feel better. After working on your business at a time where I hope you're busy right now. I really do. And if you're busy with a client, a buyer or a seller, give them 100% of your attention, please. Here's why. They're few and far between right now. We know that. Don't lose them. They get your focus. That's your number one priority. But when you get to a point where it's slowing down a little bit, I want you to refocus intensely on you and what you want. And then make sure you're doing that. You're going to the gym, you're exercising those muscles, even though it hurts, and you're doing it regularly. Because this is where careers are made. This changing market is where big time, long-term business is made. 2002, I got into real estate. I'm going to give you the story, then we're going to go right into the disc, but I want to energize you guys as well. I got into real estate in 2002. 2002 to 2005, I was told I should call for sale by owners. Now, remember, at this point, you could put a sign in the yard and any home would get 3 offers, very similar to what we just finished. And then 6 and 7, it was kind of a marginal thing, kind of like this. And then we had this huge drop off in 8. And actually, I'm going to see if I can find a graph that I had. I know I can. I'm going to find a graph that we had while we're talking now. I'll show it to you all in a little bit. Bottom line is, this is the thrust of it. So we had this huge drop off in 08. And then the market came back up again. And it went above what would be the normal average. Our average is a 3% increase time over time, 3% increase annually in the real estate industry, costs and everything else. But we went way down, meaning we had a huge correction. We were way up, which was right where we are in 2000 right now. And then we're going to have another little drop. Okay. But it's not going to go as far down, and it's not going to have to come as far back up. We're not going to experience what we did before. It just won't happen. We don't have the corruption. But what we have is a great opportunity for us to refocus on what's important. And I want you all to do me a favor. I want you to put it in front of you somewhere where you see it daily. What is it? And why are you doing this? Because this is where your lifetime careers are made. In 2008, the market really changed, and I made a shift, and I focused intensely on this shift. And I knew it. I had confidence. I had faith in it. In 2022, the market was about to change, and I knew I had to shift. So Jackie and I have shifted. Just for all of you that know, we shifted into YouTube. We really want to put some time and energy in there, and we're doing that, and we're consistent. We're on task, and we're getting better at it. Okay, so I'm just throwing it out. That's what we're doing. And I have another prospecting thing that I'm working on. I want you guys to have that same passion. I want to infuse you with that you can change your entire market. In 2008, mine was getting into for sale by owners. I looked at short sales. I don't like them. I said, I want nothing to do with it. So I had to pick something I said I can handle for sale by owners. Expireds. Let me try that one more time. Bank-owned properties. That's what I was trying to say the first time. My tongue's not working well. And I shifted into that. And we said, we're not going to stop until we become the absolute best. Now, I want to suggest a book to everybody here that has empowered me. And there's actually 2 of them, 3 of them. First, 10X, Grant Cardone. I didn't like Grant Cardone, wasn't a fan of Grant Cardone. I will shine Grant Cardone's shoes. I will bring him coffee. He is inspirationally awesome. Okay, now remember, I did not like this guy. I was not a fan. Huge fan. The next book is written by two gentlemen. One's a professional author. The other runs a coaching business. And it's called 10X is Easier Than 2X. I think that's right. And I'll give you those in a couple minutes. The following book that they wrote, which I guarantee is probably one of the best books I've ever read, and I'm going to read it. I'm reading it again right now, actually, is Who, Not How. So everybody thinks about this, and you're going to get to a point as your business starts to grow, and I want you guys to consider that you're going to have that question, who, as opposed to how. And here's what it is. How am I going to get that done? That's not the right question. The question as your business continues to grow is going to be who is going to get that done? As you start developing your business, one of the things that runs through your mind is, I should hire a transaction manager, or I should build a team. Well, building a team may not be how, but it's who do you hire that helps to facilitate that. Anyway, great books. I encourage you to read them. I bring those up because in 2008, we started getting some traction after we put in really about a year and a half of hard effort. Doesn't take that long all the time, guys. This is just me, okay? I'm slow. I'm not that bright. But it took, and this is a big undertaking. But whatever you're focusing on now, when you find you have a little time in August and September, and you're probably going to find that, double down on you. Again, work with your clients, always first priority, because they are rarer right now, rare earth, whatever. But I want you to double down when you have some time on what you're going to focus and be the best at. Because if you're the best or in the top 2%, you're going to receive 80% of what's happening. The experts always win, and you have to make yourself an expert. And I challenge you to do that. It makes a difference, and it works every time. You can control the speed by your effort. Okay, so that was my extremely long-winded introduction. What we're going to talk about today is Vulcan mind control, how to make people do whatever you want them to do. And if you're here for that, you can just get off the call right now, because I sure can't teach you that. But what I can show you, and what I'm going to share with you today, is the DISC profile. Every person has one of these characteristics and what to look for. And here's why. I'm focusing today on your ability to create rapport quicker. Now think about this. You can use it in every circumstance, and it takes practice. Remember my analysis about how I was horrible at making those calls? My muscles hurt. I wasn't very good at it. I got better because I got better at understanding what to say to who and how to speak their language, or to how to communicate to them in a way at which they can understand. Now, I'm going to show you a graph or an image that I created, which has a lot of information in there. And I normally don't pack it full of information like this, but it's a PDF. I want you to keep it, and you can download it. And Tiffany, this one I do want in the daily downloads, please. And if you would, just keep dropping that so people can pull it off as you see it. Let's get to it in just a second. But here's the thing. Most people have a dominant DISC profile. We're going to touch on that real quick, and we're going to touch on it as if we're observing somebody, not your internal. We covered a lot of it of who our DISC profiles are, and we could talk about that afterwards because that's a fun conversation. But really what I want to talk about today is, how do I observe or listen to somebody and understand what their DISC profile is? By the way, here's a little footnote. Communication, you normally think, well, that's the words I use. It's actually not. A lot of it, communication, the words are actually only 5%. If you're person to person, face to face, your body language, what you're giving off, congruency, is going to communicate the feeling, the fact of your conversation more. Here's an example. If you're looking at me, I'm assuming I'm probably on screen for everybody. And I'm like, so what I'm really trying to do is I really want to pump you all up because I think you're great. Okay, I'm not congruent, and your body can register. There's no congruency. He's saying one thing, which is a positive, but he's looking off to the side. He's looking down. He's looking up. He's not giving me eye contact. It's not congruent. Your body can recognize that. Now, here's the other side of it. What I really want to do is I want to pump you up and make sure that you have everything you need to be extraordinary. Now, my tonality on there was off, but I'm looking directly at you, and hopefully you got that I'm serious about that. Now, if I changed all of it and added in there that I really want you to be pumped up, I've got my inflection. And this is all little nuances. In communication, people will communicate to you in many ways. Your job as a human being in the existence on Earth is to start to identify what are they really telling you. What's their communication? And when you can start pinning them to what their personality characteristics are, you'll know how to communicate to them better. Now, a lot of you have probably already seen this, seen something, a version of this, and I hope you have. That's terrific. But I want to kind of dive into this and have a quick overview. So is that good? Can you all see it? Give me a thumbs up if I can see. Tiff, everybody good? All right, cool. Okay. So we have in the upper right left-hand corner, the D personality type, the I personality, the S, and the C, which is yellow, red, blue, and green. I'm pretty sure you all know that. Here's a fun fact. Almost never will you have everybody has usually two different two disc personality types that are their primary disc. Sometimes you'll have three. Almost nobody has all four as their primaries, which is what they call above the line, meaning it's the one that's at lead. If you are an I personality type, you're probably going to have a D or an S. You'll never have a C. If you're a D, you'll probably have a C or an I, but never an S. You do not cross over, they go around. So if you can identify the primary type, the one that feels like that's what they're showing me, and that's what we're going to talk about right now, you should know what possibly their secondary is going to be. But more importantly, we're going to talk about what we're going to say for them, what we're going to do and talk to them. And I'm going to start with D. Now, they're dominant. About 3% of the population, actually, you know what? Let's start with S, because this is the one I want everybody that's on the call to catch this. 69% of the population leads with S. That is the number one most prevalent disc profile. The example of who they are is a teacher. They're usually peaceful. You'll notice that they are slower paced because they're on the bottom section. They're on the right side, so they're more feeling based. They're very steady, relatively reserved. So for the S personality type, I'm going to speak in S right now because I want you to get what an S feels like. Now, normally I'm relatively peaceful. I don't like conflict, and I definitely am considered diplomatic, and I love helping people. In fact, nurturing people is one of my favorite things to do. You'll notice that I talk a little slower, and you'll notice that I may use words like feeling, and I get emotional sometimes. What I don't like, what I really don't like, what makes me just so uncomfortable is fast change. And in the work environment, I don't like letting somebody down. So if I walked into the room, I'm going to walk in a little bit slower. I'm not going to come in this hustle and bustle. In fact, that really makes me nervous. To be fair, if somebody's coming towards me and they come towards me quickly, I usually back up because it's uncomfortable. They're invading my space. And I don't like my space invaded because this belongs to me and that's theirs. With an S personality type, you'll notice them coming in or coming into a conversation, and they're not going to be the first one to come out and say, "Oh, I want to interject my feeling." They'll sit back. Remember, they're kind of steady. If you're talking in a circle and they come and join, they won't really volunteer their ideas. They will support another idea. Oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Their tonality will be a little bit slower. And their biggest fear is change. Okay, fast change. See, I just did my I again. I got back to me. I spoke fast. You can see right through my congruency. In fact, I would have failed in a conversation because I elevated my tonality. I spoke quicker. And with an S personality type, I shouldn't be doing that. I should be slowing down. I should be mirror and matching what they're saying. I should be calming. We're not going to talk about change if we're buying a house. We're going to talk about that this is going to offer more stability. This is a very safe neighborhood. The gate enhances the safety. And you can tell me walking through or walking up because I'm not charging in like some bull personality type, but I'm coming in gracefully. I'm not disturbing the waters. I do talk in emotions. Y'all following? Does that make sense? Are y'all kind of getting an idea what an S looks like? Remember, this is the primary. Now, an S, we'll go back to the sharing on this. If you identify an S, and again, they're probably, vast majority of people are going to lead with S, and they're either going to be a C or they're going to be an I as a secondary characteristic, and you're going to have to feel that out. Now, here's the thing. Slow-paced, fast-paced. An S may be a little more in the middle if they are an I personality type, but they are going to be more feeling than thinking. I'm going to go and talk about what a C personality type's like. Then I'm going to combine those two because this is, in fact, the second biggest group, or this is the largest group of subgroups that we have. So let's talk about a C personality type. Same thing. They're going to be a little more slow. They're going to be thought process. They think about what they say because what they say is accurate. They use words like think and analyze. Details are important to them. If I were talking to somebody who was slow-paced, I would probably ask them, are you interested in details? Because I'm a details person and I geek out on that sometime. Oh my gosh, I love details. I like facts. They will literally tell you, yes, that's what they're interested in. It's a great opening question when you're having a conversation. Would you mind if I shared a lot of details with you? Because now remember, if they're slow-paced, they're a C or they're an S, more likely than not. The simple question is, I'm a details person. Are details important to you? Yes, they are. I work in facts. Okay, great. Chances are they're a CPA or an engineer or something that's based, very conscientious, a little bit condescending in tonality, not on purpose, but they do not do being wrong. And if something's wrong, they call it out. They don't yell and scream, that's wrong, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're doing. But that is inaccurate. You don't have all the facts, would be something they'd say. Somebody walking through the front door, a little slow-paced, perhaps a little bit snooty, which is a defense mechanism. It is not a characteristic that they possess. It is a defense mechanism. If pushed, they will display emotions, but they do it softly. Being wrong is their number one biggest issue. The C personality type is directly across from what I am identify. I am an I personality type first and a D, just in case you all didn't get that. So C and I, George and C's, we don't speak the same language. I have to work very hard to communicate well with a C. Pierre is a high C personality type. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there. And that's totally cool. 100. Oh God, dude, 100%. You're C and S. You lead with C, you got a little bit of it. Actually, C and D. You lead with C and you're a D.
Actually, I just redid it, George. I'm so screwed up. I'm all of them.
No. That means you cheated. But you're definitely leading with a C. No question about it. So knowing that, I know in our conversations, I deal with facts. I try to. I try not to antagonize. If he says something that I take as condescending, that is me, not him. He's not they're not harmful at all. C personality types are really nice people, and they deal in facts and they don't deal in fluff. Words like feelings have no things. It's either right or it's wrong. Okay. Walking through the door, they're slow. You're going to have to talk to them and then identify if they're thinking paced. Here's the fun part. If somebody walks through the door and they're walking in slow, you can pretty much rule out that they're a high D, so you will not offend them by having a conversation and talking about details, because the S personality type, which is identified by their slow pace, and the C too, is perfectly okay with having a conversation about facts. It's not their number one thing, but they can definitely do it, and a C would thrive in that environment. Okay. You're going to find that your S is always the number one thing you probably want to defer to. Do not, as a good rule of thumb, come into a conversation like this ever. Hey, what's going on? It's good to see you. How you doing? How are you? Everything good? Oh my God, I'm so excited you're here. They're going to go like, what the hell did you just do to me? Come in softly. You don't have permission. If they're like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. Me too. I love you. All right. That's an I personality. You're good. We'll get to the I in a second. But be very cautious. Be very cautious about verbally and gesture-wise invading the space of anybody, because there's a higher than 50% chance your outgoingness, if you're an outgoing personality, I am, if you're an outgoing personality type, it can be taken as offensive sometimes. Please don't misunderstand that I'm saying you're offensive. I'm simply suggesting that it can be taken that way. And we want to be aware that we are in the process, in the business of creating stronger relationships. Assume that the person you're speaking to has a protective barrier around them, and that verbally and gesture and movement wise, you have to respect that. If they invite you in, if they stick out their hand to say hello, that's a fast-paced action. You're going to find that that's okay. Then you're welcome. You've got your introduction. But as a rule, if you haven't met somebody, please be very respectful of their personal, auditory, and physical personal space. It is the highest form of respect you can pass on. All right, let's go back to the big board. By the way, this is for you. Tiffany, I think, is continuing to drop this. I'm sure she is. Thank you very much, Tiffany. It's a great thing to look at as far as just kind of going through it. So we've covered the C personality type. Again, this is not a slam on C. It's not condescending. It's how they come across to everybody else except for a D, because we don't talk so factually. They're very fact-based and they're almost always right. I have to add this because it's so important. Here's a true story about a C personality type. Now, remember, if you have somebody who's an S seconding their personality type with a C, they're going to embody, they're going to take on some C personality types. So you've got this wonderful S personality type. They're very, they're a pleasure to speak with. They're wonderful, nice people, a little softer spoken, went to the feelings, but they're also a C personality type. And they have studied and studied about the perfect TV. They've actually looked at this TV and they've analyzed it, and it's exactly the right one. They've done 2 months worth of research, and they walk into Best Buy and somebody comes up to them and goes, "Hey, welcome to Best Buy. So glad you're here." The first they're like, "Well, hold on a second, chill out." They haven't had permission to come in there yet. And he goes, "Well, I'd like this TV. It's over here." And they walk him over. "This one?" They said, "Yes." They said, "Well, this one's great, but have you looked at the X44 model? Because this one has Dolby sound with I don't know, all sorts of other stuff, blah, 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 blah." What's going to happen is the C personality will overtake it because they may be wrong. They don't have their data. Think about this. If you're showing them a house, they say, "I want this house." And you've given them the data. If you give them more data, they're not going to make a decision. This is what happens when they walk into Best Buy. And, "Well, you should look at this one because of the Dolby sound and everything else." You're like, "Oh, okay, thank you." And they won't buy it. They'll go back and research it some more, because wrong is never an option. Wrong is something they will fight that, rightfully so. So data is important, but once they make a decision, you have to trust that they've done their work. Pierre, you got something to add, and you're a high C, so you are absolutely welcome, sir.
Guilty as charged. That's all I can say.
Okay. So is that an accurate call for a C personality?
Absolutely. I mean, me and you know my personality, and I know it's rough.
Well, no, it's not. It's accurate. And there's a big difference. It's very generous of you to say that, but it's accurate. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. No, it's not. You're just right so many times. See how I lower my tonality to make sure that whiny, snivelly little C person. I'm just kidding. You know, I love you, Pierre. Enough, it's too easy. If you give a C personality type, somebody that has C in there, more data after they've made a decision, be careful. Also, oh my goodness, I have done this, and please don't. If you have an automatic search set up for a C personality type and they decide to buy a home, stop their search immediately, please. Because all you're doing is giving them data that's going to make them second guess it. And they're going to second guess it on inspections and any other opportunity, because being wrong is such a painful experience for them. And that's actually a great thing to have on your side as a partner, by the way. And even because they know what they're doing. They're really smart and they analyze very well. Okay, let's go back to sharing the screen. I want to go next to the I personality type. Again, if you're 69% of people lead with S or with the S, so they're either going to be a C or an I. almost never a D. You don't cross, you can't crisscross over here. So the I personality type, they're inspiring. About 11% of the population leads with I. Influences, actor, outgoing, life of the party. They are absolutely feeling based and fast paced. Can anybody here identify an I personality type that we see in our calls on a regular basis? I don't want to mention Max's name. That'd be inappropriate.
Dang it. I was going to say it. I was going to type it and I was like, Max all day.
So Max is 100%. He's fast paced. He's emotional. He has no physical barrier whatsoever, or no audible barrier. You can get, Max, what are you doing? And that's exactly it. He is very inspiring. All right, let's go back to the board. I'm using Max as an example because I know him so well and it's so easy to do. And he leads with I. Okay. Biggest issue, personal rejection. So if you're talking to an I, or if you're working with an I personality, be very careful. They are overly sensitive. And remember, they work in feelings. They can get their feelings hurt very easily if they feel you don't like them. That's a big deal to them. It means a lot. They also need to be acknowledged. Now, if y'all haven't figured it out, I lead with I. Okay. My biggest fear in the world is throwing a party and have nobody show up. Seriously. Biggest fear. Number one. Jackie teases me about it all the time because I'm pretty sure she's a high C and she doesn't like being wrong. And she's not trying to, but it sounds like she's picking on me. Anyway, she's not a high I, by the way. That's my biggest thing. But if you're looking at a C, don't reject them. If you're dealing with them, if you're in a relationship, you're having a business relationship with them, please don't reject them. And make sure you continue to acknowledge them. Hey, what are you doing? Now, to find out what a high I looks like, they come in real quick. They'll walk in fast. They're fast paced. They move fast. They talk fast. They're usually gesticulative. They use their hands. They're usually very outgoing and very, how are you? And asking questions that are not fact-based or thinking-based, but more feeling-based. If an I personality comes in and they immediately, boy, I'm guilty of this. Hey, how are you? I'm George Philbeck. Really nice to meet you. They stick their hand out. Chances are they're an I or a D because they're fast-paced, but because they stuck their hand out and they said, how are you? And they introduced themselves, they're creating relationships, which is a feeling move. So there's a very good chance that you're dealing with an I personality type. Now, if they stick their hand out and they're walking relatively slowly, hi, I'm George. It's very nice to meet you. Okay, I've got a good opportunity. The slow pace is going to identify that they're a C or an S, and they stuck their hand out. They're definitely not an I. We don't cross over. So they're probably an S and an I personality type. So I'm going to focus on feeling based, warm, collaborative. That's what these are for. This is kind of that melding between the two of them. Stable, thoughtful, reliable. Look at what they don't like and go against that all the time. So if I'm with an I, I'll never reject them. I won't turn my back on them. If the phone rings, I say, that's not important. I'd rather talk to you. Oh, you've just made a friend. Our mission. Sorry, am I sharing my screen? I'm not, am I? Sorry about that. This right here, right in these sides, this is what the collaborative group of the I and the S would be. And then same with C and S, and then D and I, or excuse me, D and C. If an I walks in the room, they're going to move a little more fast paced. That's great. And they're going to immediately do an emotion or a feeling or think of it this way, a human bonding expression, a handshake. How are you doing? An inquiry on feelings. How's your day going? If somebody says, hey, how's your day going? Okay. I mean, they care, especially if they talk fast. You know, if they ask, oh, how are you? Okay, that's feeling based, but they're talking slow, probably an S. Once you start to get this, you know how to reply. And we'll get to that in a second, because I'm going to finish with the power of this and how you can put this to actual use for yourself. Okay, let's do it. We're going to go to the D personality type, and then we'll start doing some combinations real quick. A D personality type is pretty fast paced. D personality type doesn't use emotions, probably doesn't extend their hand. When you extend your hand to a D, this is how it goes. You walk in the door, they walk in somewhere. Hi, how are you? Fine. Oh, hello, how are you? And okay, yeah, we're going to shake hands. I got that. That's not unusual for a D personality type to do just that. When you extend their hand, they're almost like, yeah, gosh, I should, yes, let's shake hands. It's not, is Tiffany, are you laughing at me? Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
laughing because it is me very much.
Mhm.
And in text form, it comes in the sense of, hey, here's an update. Oh, and good morning. And I do that all the time.
All the time. All the time. I get a separate text. Oh, and good morning. Thank God you led with that one. That's a terrific example, by the way. She remembers that she needs to be politically correct. She needs to be socially adept, and she puts it at the end after she's done. Okay, no, that's cool. I do the same thing because I have a lot of D in me. When you're focusing on a D personality or identifying a D, they're going to move fast. Their biggest fear is being taken advantage of and appearing weak. Now, because this is real important. Same, I'm going to go on the other side. Rejecting them, not being acknowledged. S personality, fast change, letting somebody down, being wrong is number one, and strong displays of emotions. That's their biggest fear. They do not like emotional displays. If you went up to Pierre and you didn't really know him and you gave him a big hug, you would freak him out. That is a complete invasion, and it's an emotional response. He doesn't calculate that. No, that's a generalization and not true because he's a mixture of others. But it is going to be, if that's what he leaves, he's going, golly, what the heck was that all about? We don't even know each other. He doesn't even hug his wife. I mean, seriously. Do you hug your wife?
I try.
I love you.
I need to look at her disc profile here.
I love your honesty. I love that. Great sense of humor too. Okay, so let's go. Let's go back to it. Here's a D personality type, by the way. If you're working with a D walking into a house, they're literally gonna. I would show you, but I would show that I'm literally wearing workout shorts and a dress shirt so I could dress up for you. Yes, Fred, it's all about how you come across, Godfather. Good to see you, my brother. But a D personality type is going to walk in the front door and go like this. All right, thanks. And they're out. Does anybody experience that? Anybody experience somebody walk in where they literally can go through a house? If you worked with a client where they walk in the house, I got to hear about it. Desiree, you got to tell us. But I mean, it's not unusual with a D personality. It's like, listen, I'm going to open the door. And then I'm going to get the key out, put it back in. That'll give you a chance to tour the property, and I'll see you here in 30 seconds. Desiree, is that accurate? I can't hear you. Got to unmute it.
I've had somebody walk into my open house and they walk in, they see the kitchen, look around just like that. And they're like, I've seen enough. Close the door.
ID, very fast decision maker, very fast decision maker. They don't need a lot of information. They're very comfortable making decisions fast. Now, perfect analysis. Thank you very much, Desiree. I appreciate that. That was so exactly right. Pierre, you got something you want to add?
I was going to say, I've had enough of them, George, where by the time I get the key out and open the door, I got to put it right back into the lockbox and we're leaving. Yep. I mean, they're that decisive. And I'm analytical. I'd be there half the day if you let me. It's mind-boggling.
Well, and for a C personality and an S personality type, if it's these two combined, S and C, there's a very good chance where you're like, all right, so you wanted a house with a pool, you wanted a 1-story, and it had to have 4 bedrooms and a bonus room. This is a no pool corner lot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-story, and there is nothing else except a kitchen and a great room. Well, we should see it just to make sure. And then they spend 45 minutes telling you what they don't like about it. It's painful, especially if you are a fast-paced person, you're working with a slow-paced person. By the way, if you have an inkling that your person you're working with in a listing presentation, in a buyer presentation, in a meeting of some type, and analyzing anything, reviewing contracts, whatever the case may be, if they're fast-paced, shorten your time. If they're slow-paced, speed it up or lengthen it. Sorry, lengthen it. All right. Back to the dominant personality type D. Very few people are high D personality types. They are weird, annoying, and painful people. They usually have black hair and they have children. Hey, Tiff. I'm kidding.
It's me. No, it very much is. Very much it's me.
Absolutely. Now, these are going to be fast paced and they're going to make quick decisions. Remember that person walking through the door? Okay. Reading a contract at closing. Did you change anything? No. Give it to me to sign. All right. Don't tell me what's on this page. I don't really care. Just tell me where to sign. Let's get through this. I've got places to be. You know where they have to be? Nowhere. They just don't want to be there because it's a waste of their time. Ultimately, they're feeling taken advantage of because somebody isn't listening to the fact that they move very, very quickly and things have to move fast. Okay, that's their big issue. If you had a D personality type, this is so important. And you're pretty sure they're a D personality type. Do not come at them with, you see them walking the door looking around like this. Don't come at them and go, hi, how are you? Okay, they'll sit on you. They'll kick you. A D personality type responds very poorly to an S personality type. Now, remember, when you run into a D, they'll make quick decisions. They know what they're looking for. They want you to do the work and give them the results, and then they can make a decision. They're not interested in finding it out. The classic D scenario I use all the time. Paint that wall brown. What color brown? Brown. Okay. I want a house with a pool. Do not show them a house without a pool. Here's one for you. I need my house sold in 5 days. I've already looked over all the numbers. I know everything about it. And I think the price should be $75,463,245. Chances are you're dealing with a D. I need it sold right now. And a C. I've analyzed the numbers. Your only response to that is terrific. I'll need the data you analyzed so I can analyze it with you, and then we can make a fast decision and do this quickly. Okay, now you're talking to, remember, you've got to consider there's usually two. And by giving you some, if somebody, a D personality says, list it for somewhere around $1.2 million. A C personality type who is thinking based, you got a high D, high C, or a high D, high I. That's the only way they're going to be. They're leading with D. I want it sold quickly. You're leading with I. This is going to be fun. I think we should be somewhere. It feels like, it feels like we should be somewhere around $1.2 million. And I'd like to have it sold in the next day or two. So let's get it on the market. How long will it take? That's a high D, high I personality. High D, high C is exactly what I just said in the other one. I'd like this sold in 3 days. It should be $1,243,758. I've already analyzed everything. Okay, high D, probably a high C as well. If you have conversations that are feeling based, you're going to lose both of them. Now, you can't speak real quickly, but they are going to be questioning things. They're going to challenge what you're saying. If they say it first, it's true. If you say it first, it's open to challenge. Be careful with a high D personality type. Identifying them is great. Make sure you listen carefully for their second. What comes to you initially when you're talking to any one of these people or having a conversation is what jumps out right away. The first and easiest. Do they walk fast, talk fast? Do they walk slow, talk slow? Are they more emotional based or are they more feeling based? Sorry, are they more thinking based or are they more feeling based? So I'm sorry, my apologies on that one. Think about this. The conversation between Tiffany and Max. There's two different conversations, okay? And they're both going to be a lot of fun, but they're two different conversations. With Max, you're going to feel like there's more feelings. With Tiffany, you know she's thinking about it and she's got a mission going on. And that's if she's really working and she's in business. Now, Tiffany's also a high I, so that's not real fair. Is there anybody here that's a DC personality type? Fred, I would not be surprised if you have DC in you. Is that accurate?
Christoph.
Okay. I'm sorry, Christoph? Oh, yes. Chris. All right. So I'm going to use Chris because we all know you, Fred, but it's easy with Chris. So Chris is, by the way, a DC personality type, very, very rare. Those are usually CEOs. They're accurate. They get the job done. And if they don't have ADD, they're very, very efficient. Okay. So the conversation between Chris and Tiffany, or excuse me, Chris and Max are pretty straightforward. You're going to get more thought process, more I'm analyzing. We've got a mission where we got work to do with Chris and with Max. Let's spend a couple hours getting to know each other first because he's just so gregarious and outgoing. Now, they're both going to talk very fast paced. So, you know, based on fast paced, they're either leading with D or leading with I. I know that. And if you're figuring that he's an I, you can rule out that he is a C because again, if this is what he's leading with, this isn't happening. If he's this isn't happening. Thing is, though, just based on math, if he's leading with an I, there's a high probability because of the percentages that he's IS. If he's leading with a C, high probability that he's CS. If he's leading with a D, a high probability that he's DC or DI. Almost nothing here. There's a lot of information on here that will allow you to get a little, hopefully, a little more comfortable with being able to recognize who is in front of you, who you're speaking to based on their tonality and based on their words. And by doing so, you're going to create relationships that will help you further your business. Now, I always like to use the Michael Jordan analysis on this. For all of you that don't know, Michael Jordan is arguably the best basketball player in the entire world. Liz, 2 seconds and I'll be right there, I promise. Well, here's the cool part about Mr. Michael Jordan. They asked him, how are you so good at this? And he goes, I never compete against others. I compete against myself because others are finite. Myself, I can always do better, or something along those lines. And here's the thing. Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan is arguably the best basketball player and received a compensation 10 times other great, stellar, all-star basketball players because he was the absolute best. A little difference can make a huge difference. A little movement from good to great and great to awesome and awesome to the best. Those increments have 10 times, 10x ramifications on your reward. Wouldn't it be helpful for you to have the ability to recognize somebody walking and talking and be able to talk to them in a way that'll foster a relationship at least 3 times faster than what you're currently doing? People will work with people they trust and like. I'm not implying that you're fake. I'm simply implying that you speak to them in a way at which they are comfortable receiving. Here's a little footnote for everybody. Some of you have experienced this already. Do not, under any circumstances, engage in a conversation when you are stressed or frustrated. Your main personality type will come out and they will see it. And my main personality type under stressed and frustrated is an annoying, condescending, pompous ass son of a bitch, D. I shouldn't talk to anybody like that. All right. I hope I'm exaggerating more, but I am absolutely not my best. Do not say, listen, I'm in an appointment. May I call you back in 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour? And I can give you my undivided attention. Everybody here will appreciate that. By the way, dealing with a D personality type, just because they can make quick decisions, they're great to work with. Quick, short answers. Don't spend a lot of time talking. Okay. Talk faster and talk more on point. C personality type and have conversations that are fact-based conversations. Here's a great conversation to a D or C personality type. I've analyzed all the data. I've come up with a summary that this house is 13% more profitable if you're making an investment, and I can support it with facts, which I'll gladly send over for you to review. They literally will get a little emotionally erect if you talk to them like that. Okay, it's highly sexy conversation. If you know what their primary fears are and you talk against those, if you know their pace and you mirror and match those, your success level will go through the roof. Miss Liz, I think you had your hand up. I'd like to defer to you, ma'am.
Well, I was actually just going to say what Pierre put in the chat. Like, the best kind of people, and it's not being fake, is being a chameleon where you can identify each of the personality types and be able to speak to it. It's not like George said, it's not coming off as fake, is being able to speak to them on a way that they can understand. And you instantly know exactly who they are within the first 2 minutes of meeting them and having a conversation with them. So being able to identify your people is going to allow you to be able to work through them and understand that, hey, maybe this personality type I can't work with. Maybe I can send it to somebody else that'll better suit it. And that's okay.
Solid. I miss you.
Okay, so I have a question.
All right, well, hold on 1 second. Whose iPhone? What's your name?
Tasha?
Oh, you got a new phone. You got to name it.
No, it's just Zoom did something stupid when I touched the button.
All right, Ken, 2 seconds, brother. Natasha's talking right now. I promise I'll come right back to you. I promise. Go for it, Natasha. Have at it.
So where do you all take this test at? Because now I want to test my personality of what I end up at.
So good question. You can go to tonyrobbins.com/disc. Now there's a free one, and that free one in there has it doesn't give you graphs or anything. And I'll show you what graphs look like in just a second after Ken's done. I'm actually going to show you Kristen's graph, and I'll show you under stress. You don't want to be anywhere near this girl because she will literally cut you. And
George,
yes.
I apologize for butting in front of Ken. I will tell you that I'm going to drop in the chat a better disc profile because the Tony Robbins no longer shows the scale of disc any longer. So I have another free one that I'm using, and it's much more powerful.
Thank you very much. I love that. Okay, absolutely. Anyway, Natasha, we'll have it in there for you. There's 2 different ways you can do it. Tony's got great detailed information, but it's only good if you're looking at yourself. I would still prefer the graphs because it does give you more of an inclination. Mr. Ken, what's going on? Always good to see you, Markham. What's up, brother?
Hi, how you doing, George?
Good, man.
So what I notice is that I've been different with different people over my life. And since, I had a manufacturing company for so many years, so my main role obviously was CEO, but when I'm meeting with my CFO, I'm a DC. If I'm meeting with a chain of stores, I'm a DI, and if I'm meeting and training salespeople or training people in the factory, I'm a DS. So it depends on who I'm with, where my profile shows up. It's not like I'm consistent in one. I need to be different in different environments consistently.
So what you're showing, Ken, is your adaptability, and that you are actually speaking to people in a language that is easiest for them to receive. And that is actually, it's unique that you did that, because as a CEO, most people just need to listen to what you're saying. And I don't mean that with a condescension or anything. You are the man in charge as a CEO. But when you're going and teaching, you said, I tend to morph into more of an S, supportive and nurturing. And that's simply you organically doing what we're really talking about, where you are putting yourself in a way that they're going to receive it best. Because you and I both know, if you go in as your high D, I'm a CEO, let's get the job done. So listen, y'all are screwing up in the way you're doing this. You need to do it this way. And there's a book that says how to read it. That's a high D response. Completely ineffective. You're effective in that. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't change who you are, but it changes your communication style. And I promise you that if you were in a stress situation and all of a sudden your CFO just quit, he embezzled, $500,000 from you, and you're finding that out 2 minutes before you get up to teach the S personality types in this class, you're going to walk in and say, it's in the book, read the damn book. Y'all got a job to do, and you're not doing a good job. I got to go. Right? Because is that fair? Got it right on. So you're already naturally doing the lesson in there that Ken, you and I just got to share with everybody. Don't do it in a stressed environment. It never comes across well. Does that make sense, brother?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So let's have some fun with Kristen, because she's not on camera. I can do this. If she were on camera, I'd be afraid of her. So this is Kristen's, these are her disc profiles, and you'll get something very similar to this. Public perception, how she feels she is seen. This is called above the line and below the line, this line right here at the 0 mark, and you'll get that on the one. Thank you again for that better disc profile. I'm going to save that in just a second. Above the line, these are your primaries. So primary and public, she's a high I, leads with I, and a high D. Not so much an S, and a little less a C. Under a stress circumstance that Ken and I just spoke of, she's going to lead with I, personality first, and then probably supportive, and then she's going to get right in your face. But the bottom line is, because these are all so similar, this is important. And what we should do is probably get Kristen's husband on the phone at this point. Don't piss her off. Don't do it. She will cut you at night. I mean, it's not going to be pretty. All right, this is way too balanced when she's mad, and that just means that stuff is going to happen. Now, I'm, of course, teasing, but your stressful environment, the second part of your test, is going to show what happens when you're in a stress situation. I'm actually higher in D. I lead with I, but under stress, I lead with D, and then I, and then S and C is below the line. And this is the mirror, and this is probably the most accurate. This is really who she is. And it's very similar, which means she answered this correctly. She was truthful. One is the positive, one is the reverse of the negative. And she's very, very similar in this. I consider this to be the most accurate one, the third one, which is a combination. So she leads with I. She's absolutely an outgoing personality. She has, she's inspiring, outgoing, life of the party kind of person. She's also a D, which means she's to the point. Things can get done. She's pretty fast moving, although not completely like Maxwell over the top, fast moving pace like that. She has a lot of S and a lot of C, but they are below the line. So they will defer to her I and her S, or her I and her D personality. Kristen, how'd I do? Just threw her under the bus on that one. She may actually be doing something sideways. Anyway, I promise you that's fairly close to accurate with her. And when you guys are analyzing your own, you can do the same thing. Take a look at this. So it's 9:30, which means I've got some phone calls to make, but I do want to open this up and I want to stick around. If anybody wants to talk about or have any questions that I can answer or anything you want to discuss, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Excuse me. Was this helpful?
Hey, George, very helpful for me. I finally
brother.
figured Ken out, multiple personality disorders, and also Robert. I've been trying to figure them out for a long time, so now I got it. Thanks.
Love it. That's hysterical.
Fred, it's funny you say that because I know my personality type, and I interact with a very high D, several very high Ds on a constant basis. And I already know what the outcomes of most of the discussions end up with. Okay, we usually end up and go to our own corners, and then we come back the next day. It's interesting to have friends like that, but it helps to balance me. So I really think people are laughing because they know we're talking about, well, it's George and Tiffany, they're high Ds, and we interact very differently among ourselves. And off camera gets even more interesting. George is laughing because he knows this.
And it's so critical in a team and people, relationships, everything else. Some of you have been on the call when I did the Enneagram, but the Enneagram's probably 1,500 years old. And the Enneagram, to understand these things, are so critical because it's not there's something wrong with any of us. I mean, I remember my niece, Angel, when she started working for me in 2000, she worked for me 3-4 different times, but this was back in 2005 when I opened a big office, had a big staff and everything. She was one of my employees, and something had happened in the office, and I had her in the office. I said, Angel, why didn't you, I found out she knew about it. If something was brewing or something. I said, Angel, why didn't you tell me? She says, Uncle Fred, you don't understand. Now, here's a niece. I'm like her father because her dad died young. She said, you're scary. Just like this. I mean, this is back in 2005. She says, you don't understand. People can't approach you. You're scary. Now, I'm not scared. I mean, I'm probably one of the easiest going, nicer guys that people get involved, but it's just personality, and you've got to understand people, and you got to understand how people see you, right? And I've done a lot of this in executive roles with Coldwell Banker when they were owned by Sears and stuff, and I'm always shocked and surprised, at my own and other people, and a lot of it is how people see you as well, because it's you could be so well-meaning and trying to be helpful, and you hurt more than help,
Fred, I'd have to agree with that. People think I'm unapproachable, believe it or not.
Yep.
So Robert,
pretty
are you
much
trying
the
to
opposite.
say that I'm not a D?
Oh, honey, you're a D. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You're a diva and a high driver, for sure. A dominant driver. Absolutely a D.
Who is that?
I thought I was the I.
Are you? Well, I would be surprised if you weren't D and I, and probably have a little C with you because you are usually very, very accurate, and you think about what you're saying. So in my opinion, I would either say I or D on top, C would be third, probably above the line, and very little S, which means nobody should come whining to you.
Yeah, very little S.
Yeah.
Not your emotional person.
Very little less.
This is a safe room, folks. Everybody's safe here. All right. Now, of course, if Chris gets involved because she's all D, she may just step on you. I'm just throwing it out there. Just get right. And I love that she put in the chats, Chris. No, for all of you that can see, I mean, very statuesque young lady, very attractive, and reaches in for the power handshake right away. High D personality. You wouldn't, and the appearance is, because we all unfortunately have our stereotypes, that would not be what happens. But when she leans in for it and says, hi, I'm Chris, and puts her hand on, I know because I've seen it. I actually experienced it. I didn't remember it till she said that. that's a high D personality trait and a very, very strong characteristic that she's taking charge. Now, interesting. I said they wouldn't actually do that. A high D wouldn't necessarily do that. But with her, I'm assuming you're a D and an I. Is that correct?
A D and a C.
D and a C. Oh, golly. Okay, CEO. So I'm kind of baffled that you did, but I understand it. You're not going to wait for that to do it. Let's get it done. And you're dealing in the commercial environment, to be fair. So when you're having these conversations, I think we just lost her. When she's doing a commercial deal, she's having these conversations. She's establishing equality. She's not going to be taken advantage of, which is deep personality, and she wants the person on the other side to know that she's strong, which I think there's a lot of truth to. Anyway,
But isn't that part of the camellia, George? We
Oh,
know
100%.
that we know if we know our personalities, we know what we have to do to overcome them so that others are comfortable with us.
Yeah.
Because we need to put them in a comfortable spot, not ourselves.
Really quick, George, I accidentally pressed the wrong button. I was trying to talk to you. The
Oh,
reason
sure.
that I go in for the handshake is you are correct. Like usually you wouldn't do that, but because I'm a female, the last thing I'll ever do is being seen as vulnerable. So I come in to dominate.
Will not be taken advantage of, and appearing weak is their least favorite things to do, which is the high D personality type. Okay. Y'all need to, I would encourage you, if you want to, please take this, print it.
Stone fell out of my earring. I've got it. I found it on the carpet.
Okay, that may be by accident. So
Only sales fixed
yeah,
it.
you just
Okay.
print it. There we go. Sorry about that. All right. Godfather, what you got going on tomorrow?
Hey, listen, you want to be on tomorrow. I want to show you how someone for $2,200, bought a $200,000 house. I have a 17-year-old coming on that is just now getting his real estate license. Since the last 18 months, he's done about 5 different wholesale deals, 17 years old.
Wow.
So I'm gonna have a couple guests on tomorrow, but we're really turned Wednesdays into a really good mastermind. I'm really enjoying it myself. And I don't think I'm gonna be hospitalized anymore from the Wednesdays calls because people are just finally starting to participate. It got so bad trying to get stuff out of people. It hospitalized me. No. Hey, Desiree wanted to say something. I stepped on you. Go ahead, Desiree.
I was just gonna say that I just took that test that Claire put in there and I got 3 of them, I/SD. Because this whole time I've been trying to figure out what am I more, an S or a D? Because I'm like a big blend of both of them. So
you're going to lead with I first. And if I were speaking to you, because really it's important to know who we are. I love that you're doing that, Desiree. It's important to know, who we are as a person for our own interjection. But what I want you to consider is that your natural inclination is going to be a high I. Hey, how are you? It's so good to see you. And you can morph easily to a D and to an S. Talking to a C with analytics and numbers and details, you're going to stick a fork in your eye. So definitely.
that's my kryptonite.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I get it.
I was working with 2 S clients at the same time and I was like, no more. I couldn't take another one.
S or C clients?
Oh, C.
C, yes. Yeah, because yes, you're fine with S. You're fine with I. It's really the most fortunate person in the world is an S because the person they can't handle, their kryptonite is the dominant, a D. And most of the people in the world are not. So it's the least of them, all of them. Obviously, you want to be able to morph into everything. And if you're going to work with a C, which is really going to be your challenge, you have to start talking as if you're talking to peer. Talk in facts, don't have emotions. Be very rude and obnoxious. Offend people all the time, just as he does. I'm kidding. Go ahead, Peer, your hands up, whatever you got, brother.
Well, okay, George. So if you will let us know, we know you work with Jackie. What's her DISC profile and how does that work for you as interacting with clients?
Okay. So when we did the DISC test, because actually we started dating, but before we got really involved, I made her do a DISC profile to see if we were a match.
I believe that.
It's true. I swear to gosh, that is the honest to God true. I really did. And she DISC profiles an I and an S personality, leading with I and then S. But in marriage, I'm pretty sure she's a D and a C personality type. So I may have been bamboozled here. Now she denies it, but it's also under different environments. It's a little different, but I truly do believe that she's an I and an S personality type, leading with I, followed second by S, very little C, and D is just below the line.
So George, when you go on an appointment, who takes the lead?
Oh, well, when I go on an appointment with Jackie, I try and have her take the lead because I have a couple other jobs and I want her to do it. But unfortunately, I tend to, because I'm an ID and they're both very, very close, I tend to jump in and take the lead a lot more than I should. And that's just me not being in control of myself. And it's a character flaw of mine.
So you have the same thing that I do.
Yep.
And but
I want her to lead, but I take over and it's completely disrespectful and I'm working on it.
and then they tell us when we get in the car, they're in charge, and we go back to our little corners and we step in when we're asked, right?
Well, she actually doesn't say that. She's very good about it, but she just see, this is why I think she's a C. She hates being wrong. And I'm not throwing her under the bus. She works in detail. She's very accurate in everything she does. I mean, everything, which is great. So I think that's why I tease her about lying. But anyway, that's the thrust. Miss Claire, I caught you literally with I'll say something for a second to let you exhale, and then it's all you, my friend. Go ahead.
So, George, this has been a good call, and this is good for all of us in all facets of our life, which you have well exampled to this morning. I actually updated your disc board because one of the things that resonated in me because of my disc profile is I needed a quicker way to identify people. And I use the 4 Ps: power, party, peace, perfection. And when I see those attributes, because I like to stay in the positive quadrant, then I can ask bigger questions. So one of the things that I have learned so far as S's are concerned, which are my kryptonite, is they typically will withdraw because they're making sure that they're being peaceful, that they're being amicable. However, the underlying fact behind S's, they don't feel safe and secure. So if I approach that in better questions and make sure that their safety and security are first and foremost in my mind, that helps me with my kryptonite. So I placed that on your board and I put it back in the chat. So if that resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, use George's original, but power, party, peace, and perfection, it helps me. When I'm dealing with a C, which is a highly analytical, they've got to have figures in order to make a decision because that is their superpower. I have to make sure that I have graphs that are factual, not statistical. Please understand the difference. Statistics can be skewed. They have to be facts.
I love that because it's so easy, and I'm putting that as I'm definitely adopting that. That's great.
It was just something that resonated with me that helped me learn the disc when I see people to keep in the positive quadrant so that I could ask bigger questions to allow me to speak their language, which leads them to quicker decisions since I am a DI. This is just for me. I was just sharing it with you.
No, I love it.
When I have another party person, sometimes that party person may be an IS. So their safety and security is being the center of the universe. Whereas I'm a DI, so I have to make sure that I'm meeting their needs. And that's the biggest thing. I don't have to be right. I have to serve. So that's the huge part of my business profession and being my CEO. I also dumped the 5 levels of leadership because when we are being at our maximum servant leadership pinnacle, we tend to make sure that others are more important than ourselves. So that has been my biggest journey, is making sure that when we're building businesses and building leaders, that their goals, their dreams, their desires, their vernacular, their love language is more important than my itty bitty feelings or my itty bitty shitty committee.
Itty bitty shitty committee.
Amen.
Yep. That's
Claire.
I love it. I'm actually putting it in this board just so that I didn't forget it and have it since I can edit this one out. And that's awesome. Please use hers. It's better.
So if you're dealing with the C personality, and I am a C personality, and Claire knows this, even if she gives me all these facts and I'm going to ask one more question. Send me the raw data. I'm going to break it down. I'm until you have proven to me that I can believe what you tell me, I'm going to be standoffish. Just so
Yes.
you're aware.
Yes.
Never
absolutely.
give them a wrong answer. If you don't know the answer, you better tell us, see, I don't quite know the answer to that. However, I will get back to you when I do have an answer. Never give a C a wrong answer. You will lose them like that.
Forever.
And
Absolutely.
if you tell me you're going to give me an answer by the end of the day, you better half that time if you want to stay with me. I know
Or
my
make sure that they
personality.
understand the reason why it's delayed.
Yep. And
You
it better be a
can't
good
make
answer.
sure that they know that.
Yeah. Because if you blow smoke at me, I'm done.
Yeah.
No excuses. Like, they don't want to hear excuses. My husband is very DC, and it's like there's no such thing as an excuse. There's, okay, so I just don't understand. Like, there's no excuses when you talk to a DC. So don't ever think to give them an excuse, because it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
So
She's
here's the funny
100%
part.
correct. No excuses.
Nope.
There's no
So-
reason to have an excuse.
So here's
That's
the funny
where my
part.
personality comes out, because for me, I'm just like, so you're telling me you couldn't go door knocking because it's raining? I door knock in the rain. There's no excuses for me, but I'm also, I can adapt to the other things. Like, well, I understand you have kids. However, I was 9 months pregnant showing property. So what's the excuse? So I'm like, my D and my C and I like combat each other a lot, like a lot. And then
So,
I try to
so this is what's so cool. Liz just gave you a superpower that she has recognized within herself. So if she recognizes that within herself, imagine what we're displaying at the same time. A lot of times we have to cause ourselves to halt, take a breath,